Sterrato in Italian means una strada senza pavimento, an unpaved road. And that's what this Lamborghini Huracan Sterrato is designed to conquer, the unpaved roads. But I think it's very interesting to see how this car and its obvious competition, the Porsche 911 Dakar, actually perform so well because of their off-road characteristics and capabilities on pavement. They give you an added sense of comfort and security that you can use the performance of this car in a way that you can't its more performance-oriented brethren. Here on the Audrain Museum Network, I've also driven the Huracan STO, a track-focused car with a very different personality on this same chassis. And I love the STO. It's light, responsive, everything that you want in a track-focused car. And it was actually pretty capable and fun on the street. But this car is absolutely astonishing. Its over 600 horsepower engine can be used in a way that you cannot imagine using one of those track-focused cars on everyday roads. And I think that it's something that I personally think that manufacturers like Lamborghini and Porsche have stumbled onto something that I think could be a real great breakthrough in the next generation of high-performance cars for the street. A little more capability, a little more comfort, and a little better way of using all this power. Now, the looks of the car are something which is very subjective. I think that the Huracan is a very attractive car. The obvious fender flares, the bolted-on fender flares, the roof rack, the front driving lights are all for its off-road persona. And whether you think that it needs it or not, it really doesn't matter. I don't think it takes away from the way the car looks. It certainly provides that entree into what the car is meant to be. And also I think that depending on the color, this color is absolutely stunning. It actually works from a design aspect, and this is a car that really tells its story quite well. So it's very interesting what this is all saying to me, and it's interesting to see where this goes in the marketplace. And a special thank you to our friends at Lamborghini of Boston for helping to sponsor Colors, the Cars of Summer. The LM002 was a fearsome beast with that V12 engine putting out over 400 horsepower and gave a new definition to off-road performance. It wasn't a very successful vehicle, but nonetheless, it certainly made a statement. And Lamborghinis have always been about making a statement. And although, of course, today in the line they have the Urus, which is their SUV entry. I think of the Urus much like the rest of the cars with which it competes, something that is very akin to the SUVs seen in the boot camp scene in the Pixar Disney movie Cars, that are sort of tiptoeing through the mud so they don't get their wheels and tires too dirty. But recently, one of the leading purveyors of high-performance sports cars came out with an off-road capable sports car. And of course that's the Porsche 911 Dakar. And it really sort of stirred things up in as much as there were a lot of people, strange, I think, people that live under a rock, that really didn't have a connection with Porsche's history of off-roading, especially with the 911, and their victory, overall victory in the Paris-Dakar, which certainly cemented the 911's capability as an all-round sports car on the racetrack, hill climbs, and off-road. And so the Dakar, when it was announced, certainly stirred up a lot of interest among sports car enthusiasts, and Lamborghini felt compelled to reply. And their reply is the car I'm driving today, which is the Lamborghini Huracan Sterrato. And one of the things that you will certainly see when you watch the video of me and Jay Leno driving the 911 Dakar here on the Audrain Museum Network, that we were both incredibly impressed with the car and specifically with the dynamic capabilities, because raising a sports car, giving it more suspension compliance, putting slightly higher profile tires on it, all of a sudden makes it a much more usable commodity than most of the high performance versions of the sports cars. Usable performance in a place when you're not on the track, when you're on the street, or even on a beach somewhere, that you can actually access the performance in a way that is very easy and comfortable. And so I was very eager to try the Starato and see what it was like. Just to compare head to head, the specs for both cars will be on the screen in lower thirds. But it's very interesting the approach that each manufacturer took to this particular challenge. The Huracan, of course, is powered by the V10 engine, putting out over 600 horsepower. The 911 Dakar, of course, is powered by the traditional flat 6 and giving in excess of 400, almost 500 horsepower. A very different proposition. And the ride height, of course, has been raised in the Starato as it has been in the 911 Dakar. The 911's raised about 6.3 inches, the Starato 6.75 inches, but the Dakar has a party trick in which you can raise the suspension to 7.5. The Starato does not have that option. Nonetheless, I am feeling already in this drive exactly what I felt with the 911 Dakar. This is what I want a standard Huracan to be like. And I'm in the most common and basic of the performance modes, Strada or Street. We will sample Sport in a little bit. We will not necessarily get to Rally because we are not going to do anything heroic on soft surfaces, so that's not quite necessary here. But in Strada mode, the steering is very precise. The ride is comfortable. And compared to the last Huracan I drove, which was the Huracan STO, the super lightweight performance version, you can see that video also here on the Audrain Museum Network. And that was a car I really liked because I love lightness in cars in general. And the STO really feels and delivers its lightness at every point of the drive, and it's really a delight. This car, as well as the Dakar, are not light cars. Although, interestingly enough, this car weighs a full 300 pounds less than the Porsche. So there certainly is a more substantial feel thanks to the suspension dampening and the ride height in the tires than you get in a standard Huracan, and certainly in the STO. But you do feel the weight in a good way. Here I just said that I love lightness, but I also appreciate a well-weighted car that feels comfortable and predictable. Now I'm going to put the car into sport mode. Immediately the shifts tighten up. The display shows the gear you're in to make sure that you are in the right place at the right time. And even in sport mode, much as is the case with the 911 Dakar, it still feels very comfortable, manageable, and pleasurable here on the street at very low speeds. This is, again, with the, I have to evaluate the luggage situation, but again, it's a car that I could drive for great distances for a long time. And I think that to that end, Lamborghini and Porsche would be very, very, very well advised to put some of these characteristics in the standard car. The engine makes a wonderful sound as it winds up. It's got a great sort of dual note. Low with a really high descant singing above it. And that wonderful burble on the liftoff on the throttle is delightful. It's a well-known fact that I look for supreme usability in a car. I enjoy track days, and track day cars are wonderful things. But since I don't spend most of my time in the track, nor do most owners of cars like this, why not have a car that can deliver performance in a way that you can actually use it every day? It's a wonderful thing to be able to sit in a car like this. This is how much performance cars have progressed. Sit in a car like this and be able to speak in a normal tone while having that great sound coming from that V10 behind me, and a ride that doesn't jostle my kidneys and punch my lungs out. This is absolutely dreamlike. Now, there are some things about the Starato that I think, much like the Porsche GT3 and GT2 cars that have those huge wings for very, very purposeful aerodynamic reasons, I prefer the touring versions that have the nice, clean rear end. And so I know that much like any car designed for off-road activities, you have to have the off-road signifiers, the flares, and the driving lights in the front. And I have to check to see, what is required in the Starato package and what is not. But regardless of the lamps in front and the roof rack, this is a car that just delivers such wonderful, effortless, comfortable performance. And it just makes you think, what is it about these cars and the way they're made and engineered and built, this and the 911 Dakar, that could lead to a new page in sports cars? Usable sports cars. I, for one, would welcome that heartily. In tribute to its off-road nature, one of the displays I love most is the inclinometer, to make sure that when I'm climbing a sand dune, I don't get too high and put myself in a position to flip over. Here in very flat Rhode Island, it's very interesting to sort of watch it go from 2 degrees to 0 degrees to 0 degrees to 2 degrees. It is an entertaining beast. And there's something about the small Lamborghinis, this, its predecessor, the Gallardo, that I really enjoy. They feel handy. And even this cockpit, wrapped in Alcantara, is a warm place. Probably the one thing that I really miss is a view through the rear mirror, because it's mostly engine venting. But the side mirrors are great. And as they say, you don't worry about who's behind you, it's what's happening in front. This is a delightful motor car.